Good afternoon, everyone. So, for today's topic, I've chosen the Constitution of India. Okay, so you can see on your screen there is a book. Okay, so it says that it is a supreme law of India. The document lays down the framework that demarcates fundamental political code like structures, procedures, powers, and duties of government institutions. Okay, and set of fundamental rights. It also have directive principles and duties of citizen. It is the longest written national constitution in the world. Okay, so it is ratified in November 26th January, that is 1949, and 72 years ago. So data effectively shows that 26th November 1950. So system, the federal, parliamentary, constitutional republic, and branches. There are three branches, as we all know, that is executive, legislature, and judiciary. Chamber two, there are two chambers, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Executive, prime minister led cabinet responsible for the lowest house of the parliament. Judicial, that is judiciary, that is Supreme Court, High Court, and District Court. Federalism is federal, and electoral college, that is yes for presidential and vice presidential election, and enrichment is true. So the last amendment that has been taken is that 10th August 2021. Okay, and we also talk about the citizenship and the parliamentary house of government. When it was like we are going to see this is the assembly house. Okay, and it imparts constitution supreme parliamentary supremacy, since it was created by a constitutional assembly rather than parliamentary, and was adopted by its people with a declaration and its preamble. Parliamentary cannot override the constitution. Okay, it was adopted by the Constitution of Assembly of India on 26th November 1949. Okay, so the Constitution declared India a sovereign, socialist, and secular, right, and democratic republic. So assure its citizen like justice, equality, liberty, and fraternity. The origin of like 1950 Constitution is preserved in a helium file case at the Parliamentary Office in New Delhi. The words secular and socialist were added to the preamble by 42 Amendment Act in 1976, right? So here we'll study about the background, how it is done. So the Constitution of Assembly, the drafting of the documents, the let me show the thing with this using the pen. And it's called the drafting of the document called the Constitution was done by the Assembly of elected representative, called the Constitution of Assembly Constitution. Most of the colonial Indian was under British rule from 1857 to 1947. From 1947 to 1950, the same legislation continued to be implemented as India was our dominion of Britain for these 3 years, as early princely state was convinced by Sardar Patel and V.P. Menon to sign the Articles of Integration with India, and the British government continued to be responsible for the external security of the country. Thus, the Constitution of India repealed the Indian Independence Act, okay, 1947, and Government of India Act as 1935, when it becomes effectively on 26 January 1950. Indian ceased to be a dominion of the British Crown and became a sovereign democratic republic with the Constitution article. So here we can study about the Constitution was drawn from a number of sources mindfully of the Indian needs and condition. Its fames borrowed features of previous legislatures such as Government of India Act 1858, the Indian Council Acts of 1861, 1892 and 1909, and the Government of Indian Act 1919 and 1937. The Indian Independence Act 1947, the latter which leads to the former Constitution Assembly into the Amendment Act of 1937 is also there. So we can see here, okay, the election of the Constitution Assembly were held July 1946. Okay, its first meeting were held in December 1946. Soon after the Indian divided into the India and Pakistan, the Constitution Assembly was also divided into the Assembly and that of Pakistan. The Constitution Assembly that wrote the Indian Constitution had 299 members. Assembly dropped the Constitution 26 November 1949 and it came into effect on 26 January 1950. Okay, so as you can see here also, the Constitution of Assembly is drafted, and having studied the constitution of about 60 countries, Ambedkar was considered a wise constitution expert. How we can say that Ambedkar is recognized as the father of constitution, right, of India. In the Constitution Assembly, a member of the drafting committee, and we can also see that the formation of the Constitution Assembly in accordance to French practice, right? And the first meeting was held in the Constitution Hall. The first person to address was JP, and now the 13th December was oblifying the 24th. So it was the all of the membership. Okay, now we'll go to our next slide. And here we can see that why should we accept the constitution made by assembly more than decades ago? So why should we accept it? So you need to be very creative while answering it. Okay, so we can see that under the article under the executive, legislature and judicial branches of government receive their power from the constitution and are bound by it. With the aid of its constitution, India is governed by a parliamentary system of government, right, with the executive directly accountable to the legislature. Under Article 57 and 53, the President of India is head to the executive branches, right? So under Article 60, the duty of preserving, protecting and defending the Constitution and the law. Under Article 74, the Prime Minister is the head of the Council of Ministers, which aid and advise the President in the performance of their constitution duties. Okay, so the Constitution is considered federal in nature and unitary in spirit. It has features of federation, including codified supreme constitution or three-tier governmental structures, division of powers, bicameralism, and an independent judiciary, right? So it also possesses unitary features such as single constitution, single citizenship, and integrated judiciary, a flexible constitution, a strong central government, appointment of the state governed by the central government, all the Indian services, that is IAS, IPS and IFS, and emergency provision. This unique combination made it a quasi-federal in form. Each state and union territory has its own government, analogous to the president and prime minister. Each has a governor, or in union territory, a lieutenant government and the chief minister. That Article 356 permits the president to dismiss a state government. So it is known as presidential rule. So there is much government presidential rule. And the Constitution Assembly was wrote in which how many members there was, right? Do you remember who was the first Prime Minister of India? You should write this as well. And who is the first Prime Minister of India? He led the task of, forcing united India, successfully integrating into the newly independent nation. Okay, so those British colonial provinces that formed the Dominion of India, beside those provinces that had been under directed, British rule, approximately 565 self-governing princely state and princely slate to some extent, right? So his commitment to national integration in the newly independent country was total and uncompromising, earning him to sobriquet, Iron Man of India. He was also known as Iron Man of India. So he is also remembering as the patron saint of India's civil servant for having established the modern all Indian service system. He's also called the Uniferum of India, the Statue of United, sorry. The world tallest statue was dedicated to him on 31st October 2018. Okay, it's already 182 meters. So Abdul Kalam Azad. Okay, so he was born on, you can see here itself. So he was born on a Saudi Arabic educationalist, author, and theologian, scholar of Arabic, right? So Congress leader, active in the national movement post the Muslim, and later education minister of the first union cabinet, right? So as a young man, Azad composed poetry in Urdu as well as treatises on religion and philosopher. Okay, so he rose to through his work as journalist, publishing work critical of the British Raj and espousingly the cause of Indian nationalism. Azad became the leader of the Khalifat movement, during which he came into close contact with the Indian leaders Mahatma Gandhi. Azad became an enthusiastic supporter of Gandhi's ideas of non-violence, civil disobedience, and worked to organize the non-cooperation movement in protest of the 1919 Laurel Act. Okay, Azad committed himself to Gandhi's ideal, including promoting Swadeshi, that is indigenous, okay, and product and cause of Swaraj, that is self-rule for India. In 1923, at an age of 35, he became the youngest person to serve as the president of Indian National Congress. In October 1920, Azad was elected as the member of Foundation Commitment to establish Jamia Millia like at in UP. Okay, without taking help from British colonial government, he assisted in shifting the campus of the university from Aligarh to New Delhi in 1934. So the main gate that is of the campus of the university is named after him. So like Azad was one of the main organizer of the Dharna Sara Satyagraha in 1931 and emerged as one of the important national leaders of the time, prominently leading the cause of Hindu-Muslim unity as well as secularism and socialism. Okay, he served as Congress president from 1940 to 1945, during which the Quit Indian Rebellion was launched. Right, so Azad was imprisoned together with the entire Congress leader. He was worked at the Hindu-Muslim unity through the So we'll learn about the um Rajendra Prasad, right? RASAT. We learn about Rajendra Prasad, and you can see he was born in Bihar. Okay, president of the Constitution, a Constituent Assembly, lawyer known for his role in the Champaran Satyagraha. Okay, 3 times the president of Congress, later the first president of India, and When India became a republic in 1950, okay, Prasad was elected its first president by the Constitution Assembly. At president, Prasad established a tradition for partnership and independence for the office period and retired from Congress party politics. Although a ceremonial, head of state, Prasad encouraged the development of education in India and advised the Nehru government on several occasions. In 1957, Prasad was re-elected to the presidency, becoming the only president to serve two full terms. Prasad stayed in office for the longest term of around 12 years. Okay, so post the completion of his tenure, he quit the Congress and set up new guidelines for parliamentary, which was still followed. Prasad played a major role in forming the Bihari Students Conference in 1906 and served as the president of the Constitutional Assembly that drafted the Constitution of India. So likewise, we'll study about the Bhim Rao uh, Ramji Ambedkar, okay, and he was the Indian jury economics. See, he was the Indian jury economics and social revolution, and he was the law minister in cabinet, that is uh, founder of Republic India, and he was from the Constitutional Assembly, served as the law and justice first cabinet minister of India. So we will also study about that. Ambedkar graduated from University of Bombay and studied economics as Columbia University and the London School of Economics, receiving doctorates in 1927 and 1923, respectively, and was among a handful of Indian students to have Hazar.